What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Keeping It Real podcast and to part 2 of our Star Wars Saga ranked and reviewed. Part 1 was released yesterday, so make sure you check that out first, where we reviewed episodes 1 through 3, Solo and Rogue One. Today is episodes 4 through 9 and our official ranking of all 11 Star Wars movies. Before we start, make sure you're just following us on Twitter at Keeping It Real UK. From there, you can find links to all of our streaming platforms and social media. Enjoy the show. New Hope, Jack.
So I feel like my rating of this is going to be quite controversial.
If it's the same as it was the other night, then yeah.
No, it's changed.
Oh, okay.
Mine isn't.
Obviously, this started the whole thing off, and what this film has given me is probably thousands of hours of just absorbing or thinking about Star Wars, whether it's playing games, reading books, watching the TV shows, watching the films, or just talking about it with people. Kicks all of it off, and it does it in such a great way. But I think now in hindsight, it's the one I'd say I struggle. Like I watched them all fairly recently, well, not like a couple months ago, all again, and I found myself it being one of the ones I was least looking forward to, because I know it's very slow, and it's like obviously building this whole galaxy essentially. But I think it's one of those I've seen so many times now, I'm almost like numb to it. Obviously it's got like great moments, like when they're in like the trash compactor, when you actually see Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader. But for me, I don't know, it's just not, it doesn't capture me the way that it used to when I was younger. And I'm not sure if that's because in terms of scope, they've like released so much more stuff, and I know what there is to see, that I'm kind of just like, it's almost like a stepping stone. Like I'm like, yeah, come on, kick it off, let's go. I want to see where it goes to. But yeah, like I do love this movie, and we know what my last film was, so this isn't nowhere near last. But I've put this as 6th.
Okay.
Yeah, just for what it. Obviously, there's no way I can hate it, because it sets up an entire world that I absolutely fucking adore. But for me now, I think it's just, and it's obviously at the time as well, like the effects and stuff were, groundbreaking at the time. But now in hindsight, again, they feel more dated, and I don't know, it just takes away from the viewing experience, in my opinion. But yeah, obviously, and by no means is it a bad movie. It's bloody good, but yeah, it's just a midway placeholder at the minute for me at number 6.
Calvin?
I've got it. I was thinking about this one a lot, because my initial list was just off the top of my head. And when I actually thought about my experiences with these films, I've actually got this one at number 3 now, which I think it more than deserves. Some people would argue it even deserves higher. Yeah. But yeah, what I love about it is that they obviously didn't know that it was going to go on. It was just called Star Wars. So I do like that this is it's a very enclosed story with bigger stuff hinted at.
Yeah.
In the background, which I do like. I feel like it's very focused in that respect. I feel like this one it's the one out of the original trilogy where they hadn't really nailed down like the script or the acting. I feel like this one was a bit, especially Luke in this one. He's a bit all over the place, I find. But he finds his feet in the second one. I feel like the interactions between the droids, I don't love in this one. I feel like they do a better job in the other 2 films. But I know obviously R2-D2 and C-3PO were very much influenced by 2 characters from an Akira Kurosawa film, who sort of constantly bicker all the time. So I get what he was going for there. Yeah, I put this so high because I love that George Lucas sort of took everything he loved about cinema and then put it all in to make like a space opera. Like, not even just cinema, books as well, because obviously Star Wars is heavily influenced by Dune. But I love, because I've always loved westerns and I love samurai films. You mash those two things together. With some space.
yeah,
and then you've literally got Star Wars.
Yeah.
I do feel like there are obviously some bits like the duel with Obi-Wan and Darth Vader symbolizes more than it is a spectacle. You know, they just didn't have the technology to be doing these crazy fights until they worked it out for the second one, really. But yeah, just the introduction of such like characters who just stood the test of time, like Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Leia, Chewbacca, all
Icons.
of them. They literally are just from this one sort of film that he just made on a whim, not really knowing if it was going to succeed or not. I think he actually had a bet with Steven Spielberg that Star Wars, that Close Encounters was going to make more money than Star Wars, and it actually was the other way around, which is just crazy to think that, you know, none of the people in this had any idea where it was going to go, what was going to happen. But yeah, I think this one does a great job as it sort of focuses on Luke's arc, doesn't it? Everyone else is along for the journey, basically, and it's Luke's arc, and I feel like it's always the example people go to talk about a character's arc, because it is the hero's journey. I feel like every time someone wants to say, like, how would you do a character's arc, I feel like it's always the first Star Wars film is always the one that's brought up. So I feel like even though it is cliche, I just feel like it's so well executed. So yeah, I think it deserves to be a number 3.
Number 3, yeah. I'm not far behind. I've got it at number 4. Obviously, this started off everything. Every time I watch it, I am still impressed by how they pulled this off so long ago. The Death Star rescue sequence may be my favorite in all of Star Wars. I think that entire sequence aboard the Death Star trying to get Leia out is just brilliant from beginning to end. After that, I feel the film falters a bit. I feel it's a rush to the end then, and I don't think it builds as well to a climax as the later installments do.
Yeah, the climax sort of just comes out of nowhere, doesn't it? They go to meet the rebels, and then they plan the fight,
and then they do it, and then it's done. Yeah, and I always, even as a kid, I was like, I feel like there should be something else there as well, because it does feel so quick. But obviously, all that it's inspired, and it's so creative, and it's so easily watchable. I don't really have a lot of big problems with this movie. So yeah, number 4. All right, one of the big ones, Empire Strikes Back. Jack?
I think it's not too far off to say this is probably one of the greatest sequel movies of all time. I feel like it kicks up such a gear. It really brings you more into the world that they've built and shows you so much more. Starting off with a big fucking ice planet war, basically, with those massive bloody, you know, at the time, robot camels. Well, they're the 80s. And they give you so much, like, this obviously introduces Lando, who I think is probably one of my favorites out of the original trilogy. He brings such like a charm, and like he makes Star Wars, like, I think it's cool anyway, but he makes it cool. Yeah, he's just so suave, and even though even though he betrays them within 10 minutes of him being on screen, I almost instantly forgive him.
It's Billy D. How could you not?
And I'm like, come on, Billy, man. Like, I wasn't cool, but you are. They give you Boba Fett for what, 2 seconds of screen time?
Overrated character in Star Wars history.
It's bloody cool though.
He looks cool, and that's why everyone loves him. But that's fine.
He looks cool. And obviously, you get the whole Vader, "I am your father" twist, which I remember watching that as a child again, being absolutely mind blown. I was like, "There's never been any hint of this." Fuming. I was like, "What's bloody going on?" And yeah, that's for me when like the whole thing kicks up a gear. You're like, oh shit, this is a story of emotional weight and emotional value, and it's not just some bad guy who's a bad guy for no reason. Like this is actually like he's like, at some point he was a person before he became this ridiculous machine.
He's more machine now than man.
Yeah, exactly. And you get him basically telling Luke these like home truths, like Obi-Wan lied to you from the first movie, and you're just like, oh, who do you trust? Why did he lie? And and it's just like it leads you to all these like speculations, and I just think it made me care so much more. I had so much more emotional investment in them. Just even though you do get like cool, you get cool space battles and you get cool lightsaber fights, but if I'm not emotionally invested in it, then again, why should I care? And you've made it as cool as you can, but without that, then there's no point. And I think it really reels you in. So, and until very recently, well, till the last few years, this would have been my number one pick, but I'm going to put it at number 2.
Nice. Calvin?
Well, I've already set a tone with what sort of Star Wars vibe I enjoy.
Yeah.
So this is by far this is number 1 for me. I just think it really sweeps you into this world in a sort of different way from the first one. It just really like you feel like, God, this is this like the Empire are really bad. Yeah, it was funny that Jack was saying like with I love the Luke Skywalker twist, and it's just speaks even more volumes as to why it sweeps you up, because Jack was like, oh, you never get any hint of this happening, but the foreshadowing it is there, and it's just great foreshadowing, because when Luke goes into the cave or wherever it is and then sees Vader, chops off his head, and then sees himself, and that is amazing foreshadowing. So people were probably thinking, oh, what does that mean, but then it does such a great job at making you, it's basically told you already that he is very, very close to Vader. And and then it basically, and then it does such a great job at making you forget, to when you get to that twist you're like, no way, that's crazy, but yeah, you're not completely thrown off by it, because they've already implanted the seed.
They've done their groundwork,
which is they also do it. Another great example is obviously with Gandalf and Lord of the Rings come to save them at the end of the Two Towers, the Battle of Helm's Deep, where he says luck to me at the first light on the 5th day, but at the end you forget about it. And then when it happens, you're like, oh my God,
but it's in there.
And I just think any film that can do that with their foreshadowing it's just great. We got so many. I just love the sort of tone of this film. I love the sort of lessons Luke learns in this, going from this sort of arrogant, full of himself, sort of man-child, to eventually getting like he gets taught some real humility by Vader. Loses his hand. I love that it's usually in the second film where the hero gets defeated, and I feel like this is what the sequel series didn't do with their lead, and I feel like it's a really important part of a trilogy. If you're going to do like a hero's journey, for in the second one they really end up on their ass. And I feel like that The Empire Strikes Back is one of the best instances of it in all of cinema. I think I love Boba Fett. He's just cool. I think he gets more screen time in 2 seconds. He has the old shootout with him in on Bespin.
Oh, briefly,
when Darth Vader, you get some real Darth Vader shade that he's like planned. He's planned this dinner. He's even set the table. And he doesn't even try to. He just catches bullets with his hand as well. But he was really chivalrous there. To be fair to him, like he put an effort. He put an effort in.
He put on a whole bloody spread for his daughter's boyfriend.
I love the introduction, obviously, of Lando, and I love his sort of dynamic. He wasn't just a character to sort of come along on the journey with the characters. Like, he did betray them, but I loved that immediately he regretted doing it. He had no choice. I like these sort of characters. They felt 3-dimensional. It didn't feel like, oh, these guys are good, these guys are bad, and that's the way it is. I feel like this film does a better job. And obviously, like, what happens to Han Solo getting frozen in getting frozen, like who saw that coming? Like he's a fan favorite, and everyone's like, damn, like what's going to happen to him now? Yeah, I just maybe I've just have a problem that I just really love all these characters being completely knocked down.
Well, yeah, this is the sequel that sequels aspire to be, isn't it? Everything gets compared to The Empire Strikes Back. Arguably a perfect film. It's darker, more thematic. Some of the biggest moments in all of Star Wars happen in this movie. It just outshines everything that A New Hope did. Really.
The lightsaber battle is actually impressive.
Yeah, they're not just stood there smacking each other. It's actually, it moves around. It's dynamic. It's George Lucas didn't do this one. Obviously, it was Irving Kershner.
Yeah,
and this was the first Star Wars movie that Lawrence Kasdan wrote on. And this is where you really get a feel for the characters. And obviously they get split up, which a lot of sequels do that after Empire. You split them up, and then when they come back, they're stronger. And I never thought another Star Wars movie would beat The Empire Strikes Back for me, but it has. So this is at number 2. Just so good, but there has been one that has outdone it for me. Return of the Jedi, Jack. Go.
So I think this is just another. I feel like this trilogy of films, they really just nail the sequels, and obviously this isn't as good as the second one, but I do really love it as well. I just love the whole end, like the whole third act when all the rebels are down on Endor trying to do their thing, and then you got Luke literally is he on the Death? No, he's on the Star Destroyer, isn't he?
He's on the Death Star.
He's on the Death Star,
yeah.
sorry. Yeah. And he's literally just watching all his friends die, and the Emperor's just trying to turn him, and he's just not giving up. I don't know, I've always really liked that dynamic, because he's faced with immeasurable odds, and he's just almost completely unwavering, except for when he pulls the lightsaber to go to kill the Emperor. And then you have that whole bit with Darth Vader, and when my favorite bit of the whole thing is when Darth Vader says that if Luke won't turn, then perhaps his sister will, and then Luke just fucking loses his head, and he's not even like being skillful anymore. Like when like Darth Vader like trips back, and he's basically hitting him like he's hitting him with a hammer. Go bang, bang, bang. And you finally see, like, at the end of it, you finally get the whole Darth Vader. I mean, the man commits so many crimes.
Yeah.
So
he's
many
he's
crimes.
in no way fully redeemed.
No, he's not. He's not
How
fully
can
redeemed.
you be?
He commits so many atrocities
for saving someone who's blood related to you.
Yeah, and in the end, it's not a full atonement, but you see that he is still human, and that he does love his son, essentially. And you finally get that moment when he throws him down. I don't even know what that hole is, into like the reactor.
Yeah, the reactor
shaft. And then you finally get that whole unmasking and see that he is still under it all. He is still a man, which I always like hit me. Yeah, he looks rough. He looks bloody rough,
but a little egg.
Yeah, but he is still a man. And it's always just really resonated with me. I just think it's just such a good way to end it. And like, you don't see anyone else being like, oh, I like how it's just kind of like Luke's moment with him, and it's not just like everyone else is in there, so Han Solo can't be like, oh, he was actually a super good dude, like he saved everyone. Like it's just a nice like private moment between Luke and his father, which I really, really like. It's by no, what Calv said earlier about like marketing, like them capitalizing on it with like the Ewoks.
Yeah,
I do like, they're okay. I probably liked them more when I was a child, but now I can see like that is like they didn't have to be cute little bears. They could have done something else.
Cute little bears.
Yeah, same with like the
to eat people.
Yeah, it's the same with the porgs. Like the porgs in Last Jedi. They
Cute.
have, yeah, they're just
Love
cute though. That's it. They
I
serve
think
no
they make a cool
purpose.
noise.
Yeah, I suppose. It's I feel like that was needless, and that just kind of brings down what I consider. I think the whole tone of the movie is fairly serious one, like the whole the whole premise. And yeah, so I've put this as numero 4.
Didn't want to commit to the Spanish.
No, I didn't want to commit for the full quattro.
Calvin?
I've got this one at number 6. Like Jack said, I think the ending is amazing. Sort of the confrontation between those 3 characters, and obviously Vader sort of trying to save his son, even though I still think he's not redeemed for all of the mass atrocities he caused. I really like the Superstar Destroyer in this. I think that has like really good effects.
Yeah.
That one. I'll go through this one quickly, to be honest. I think the same as I said earlier, like the Ewoks just don't do it for me. I feel like the really whimsical tones of Star Wars are what let it down for me in some places. I feel like sometimes it feels forced and out of place. I don't know, people will probably be at me for that, but I quite like the sort of, the more serious tone, which I feel like this film feels quite weird because it has the Ewoks and then it has this really serious moment between is the hero we've been following on this journey about to turn to the dark side? Is he about to embrace? Yeah, it is really jarring. Number 6.
Yeah, I've got this at number 8. I'm sure this was a much better movie before the special editions came along. Why? Well, the whole Jabba's palace sequence.
Oh yeah, God, I forgot. That's horrible.
Oh my God, the band.
Yeah,
I can't remember the name, but fuck me, it's awful. That one, yeah. The whole Jabba's palace and the sequence on Tatooine feels so disconnected from the rest of the movie for me. It doesn't feel like it's a part of the same film. Like you said, yeah, tonally just jarring when you cut in from Luke fighting Vader to Ewoks throwing rocks at stormtroopers. That's never worked for me. The final fight between Vader and Luke is the best fight, I think, in the original trilogy. His emotional reaction,
backflips and stuff.
Who doesn't love a good backflip? His emotional reaction when Vader does bring up his sister, I think a lot of people forget about that because that really, stays true to who Luke is. He's a very emotional character, and that reaction lays the groundwork for obviously what he does later in the trilogy. He's a very emotional boy.
Sounds like you're already trying to justify your number 1 pick.
I don't need to justify it. I'm right. So yeah, that's at number 8 for me. Force Awakens, Jack. Go.
I loved this one when it first came out. I'm not sure if it was due to just the excitement, thinking, when the prequel trilogy was over, that we were never going to get another Star Wars movie. I was so buzzing, and it did not let me down. I know it's basically the same plot as A New Hope.
Well, all 3 of the films really put together. It's the whole trilogy in one.
Yeah, basically. I get that, but I still loved it. I was invested from the off because they said original characters are going to be returning, but I feel like it was good that they didn't lay on that. I felt like they didn't lay on it too much. They laid on it quite a bit, but I didn't think they pushed it too far. Like I thought initially it was just going to be like, there's the new 3 characters, and then they run into all 3 of the old characters straight away, and then they're like, let's go do this, let's go beat these people, but they don't, and they obviously leave you waiting for Luke as long as possible, literally the very last fucking second of the movie. I just think it's just fun for me. it was Star Wars. It was just a group of heroes coming together against immeasurable odds, and just, like beating them essentially. I think some great characters got introduced. I think Adam Driver as Kylo Ren is the standout star of that whole trilogy. He is ridiculous.
Maybe the whole franchise. He's almost too good for Star
Wars.
He
is. Yeah, he's too good for it. That is like, it's absurd to say. And no disrespect to Star Wars, but he is such a fucking good actor.
With his dark side fetish.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. Like, it's actually embarrassing how good he is. Like, if I was him, I'd be walking off set after a take, and I'm like, I'm really sorry, I fucking nailed that. Oh.
Can we get another take, Adam? No.
Yeah. And he's probably so humble about it as well. He probably does like a perfect take, and he's like, God, that was trash.
Where is this on the list for you then?
This, I can't even remember, but they put it. This is number 7 for me.
Number 7.
Yeah.
That doesn't correspond to what you just said.
Yeah.
What?
Blowing smoke up Adam Driver's bum, and then you put it at 7.
Oh yeah, this is his standout performance. We'll discuss his standout performance, but he can't carry a whole film by himself. I think it is too similar to the originals. Like they couldn't. I don't know why they didn't just try and think. Like, I didn't mind it at the time, but it is literally just another. It's a bigger Death Star. It's just a worse Death Star than the first one.
They do say that as well.
Yeah,
just another Death Star.
Yeah,
this one's bigger.
I just think it's just bigger. But the ones I've put in front of it, I feel for me, like, there wasn't too much emotional weight to it for me, apart from Kylo Ren killing Han Solo, which didn't really hit me at the time properly until afterwards. But I forgot where I was going with that very point.
Leave it there then.
It's gone. Yeah.
Thank you guys for listening. Yeah, I've got this at number 7 as well. I won't be blowing as much smoke up Adam Driver's arse as Jack, but I did like this one.
Not fit anymore.
It feels, because it's so similar to the others. It just feels so safe. Like, I just feel like, do something new here. Have an original idea. It literally starts off with another sort of potential Force user on a sand planet, where their important droid is. There's plans on it that they're trying to get, and then there's the bigger Death Star that gets blown up. It's just like I'm still unsure how I feel about the First Order. I get where they're trying to go with it. Like, you topple a tyrant and then a new one just gets born.
Yeah,
I get that, but I don't know. I feel like it did have a really good a setup, but it never really developed into anything more than just being another Empire rehash. But I could see, that there was some inner workings there. Some of the obviously the returning cast is amazing. I think Finn was the character from the offset where I was like, he's the first one who shows up in the trailer, which I always found confusing. It's like, yes, he's going to have such a big part, and I really loved this. I would have loved the story of an ex-stormtrooper sort of becoming a Jedi or something like that. He didn't have to become a Jedi, but I don't feel like they ever really. He gets sidelined pretty quickly, and I never really feel like they explore what his character could be, because from the offset immediately he's the most interesting character for me. And I hate that he never really he immediately just wants to get away from the First Order, like which a child soldier who had been indoctrinated in that since they were very young would not act that way.
Yeah,
and I feel like they could have done a better job of him sort of toiling with these. I have to be this now, not this. Trying to work that out in his head, where he just kept trying to run away, and I just felt like you could have explored so much more stuff with that. So I was quite let down well, not in this film actually, by the whole trilogy.
But later,
where his character actually ended up, because I actually quite liked his character in this film. I do feel like it's just a rehash of the original trilogy. Obviously, I do think Kylo Ren killing his father was a high point. I really wasn't expecting that. One bit I dislike is I like the whole fight in the snow. I liked when Finn had the lightsaber, which still goes into that they seem like they had plans for him, and he was on the poster with a lightsaber. It just made no sense. And then Daisy Ridley character just like, I don't know what I say like that. Rey, she pulls out with the Force and just catches a lightsaber, and then she's immediately able to fight, which they later then have to sort of try and rectify in the next film by just like mentioning a line. I don't know, that just really doesn't work for me. I feel like she is, I didn't mind her leading up to this point in this film. I thought she had promise, just this sort of scrapper from nowhere. But then when they start to lean into that further on through the trilogy, I feel like her character became a Mary Sue. She's just too good at everything. She doesn't really suffer the losses that sort of, well, we'll go into that in a different one. But so I think number 7 is fair for this one.
Right. Like you said, because it is just retreading familiar territory. I would have liked to see Disney go in a different route than just stormtroopers fighting rebels again. But if you are going to do something familiar, I think this is a very good example of it, of just, retreading. I think this does work better than A New Hope. I think it builds to a more satisfying conclusion. I really like
they got the power of hindsight there, haven't
they?
Yeah,
well, exactly. But I really like all the characters. I think compared to A New Hope, these have got a much more well-rounded. I think because Empire did a lot of that work for actually making those characters what they are. Like you said, Kylo Ren is just a great character with a fucking brilliant performer behind it. He's, like I said, he's too good. He's too good for Star Wars. We don't deserve Andor either. I've got this at 3. I really like this movie. This might be my favorite cinema experience I've ever had. As soon as the opening crawl came up, I just felt tears down my face. I was like, oh my God. And it feels like Star Wars. From the first line of dialogue, I was like, oh, we're back. We're back, baby. Home. And it's good. Yeah. And I was so relieved that it was good. And this is really held up for me. So I've got that at 3. Right, let's get to the really good stuff, Jack. Last Jedi.
I think James, you'll agree with me, but it's no stretch of the imagination to call this film an absolute fucking masterpiece.
I love
it. This film is so good. I honestly I cannot fucking grasp that people hate this film so much. I don't understand it. I cannot get my head around it. It is so good. There's so much emotional weight to it. So impactful. It's so just glorious to look at, and it's just classic Star Wars. Like they have such immeasurable odds in this film. It literally starts instantly after the first one ends, and they just can't escape. They literally are just stuck, and they're being followed. They're getting blown away left, right, and center, and then the conclusion on. What's it called? The planet? Crate. The conclusion on Crate is absolutely unreal. I'll get back to that in a second. Luke Skywalker in this. I remember initially thinking the bit where she hands him the lightsaber and he throws it behind him. I remember initially being like, oh, what? Like, I've waited, 2 years for that?
2 years, yeah.
And then I was like, later on when it's all contextualized, I was like, yeah, I love this. I know it's not the Luke Skywalker that we like wanted going in.
It's the Luke Skywalker we needed.
Yeah, like he's so disillusioned with everything. He just doesn't, how can he failed to train his own he basically failed his own blood. He failed his nephew, of all people to fail.
Yeah.
And it's just really just hit him so hard, and like, because he's failed so like catastrophically, because he couldn't have done worse, basically, because he just becomes so evil. He literally becomes essentially like not as powerful, but a new Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Which with the power of hindsight as well, you can see his father's like failings, and the fact that he couldn't convey that to a boy well enough so that that boy becomes like obsessed with him is just insane. I think the whole Luke Kylo Ren relationship in this film is just so good, and when it culminates to their fight on Crate. Yeah, I got it. When it culminates to their fight on Crate, like he literally says in like the first act of the film, "What do you want me to do? Like face down the entire First Order with my lightsaber or whatever?" And
laser
as
sword.
he's walking out, yeah, with his laser sword, and as he's walking out onto the battlefield, I literally was like, "Oh my god, he's gonna fucking do it, isn't he?" There's no way. There's absolutely no way. He's just said he's not going to. And like part of me was like, this is going to be immense, even though he said he's not going to do that. This will be sick. But I'm almost glad that we didn't get that.
Instead, he does the most Jedi thing anyone's ever done.
Yeah, he just, he says to Leia before he goes out there, which kills me. Their interaction absolutely
every time breaks me. Yeah,
it's so nice, but also so heartbreaking.
It's bittersweet.
That she's accepted that her son has like, there's no way back for him now. And then he goes out there, he faces him, and he embarrasses him. Basically, he embarrasses him in front of everybody, in
front of all his mates,
and in front of all his mates. And I just think that whole third act of the film is so unreal. The film is soured by Finn's whole arc in that film. I feel like that is the droid factory moment of this film.
Canto Bite.
Yeah,
I love it.
I don't mind it. Like, it's cool. It's fun. It's an adventure. It gives them something. It gives them something to do, basically. But yeah, that for me is pretty much the only part of this film that doesn't work. And then you get the whole Snoke Kylo Ren dynamic when he betrays him at the end. I think Rey has quite a lot to do in this as well. I find her training with Luke really interesting, and just her coming to terms with what's actually needed of her. I just feel like Finn is let down the most in this film. I think that's pretty much my only discrepancy with it. So yeah, if you hadn't guessed already, this is my number one pick.
Numero uno. Calvin?
Yeah, I think obviously I haven't got it a number one, so sorry guys, this film isn't going to be number one on our list. It's going to drag it down a bit.
We never know. We're counting those averages.
Yeah, I by no means do I think it's better than Empire in a lot of ways. I don't think Canto Bite is that great. I don't hate it like other people, but I do see why people hate it. And it's because it's such a side plot. That's something it just wasn't needed. They just put a side plot there for the sake of it. It doesn't work with the whole film, no matter what they're trying to get. Like, it doesn't work. I feel like because Poe was originally supposed to die in The Force Awakens, I feel like his character's not so great in this. I feel like I can see what Rian Johnson was trying to do, making him sort of rash and trying to have a little bit of grey area there, but the way I just don't think it sort of pays off with it. What I do love about this film, I think after Rogue One, it's probably one of the best shot Star Wars films. I love in the opening battle with the A-wings, all the pilots are shot from outside of the cockpit, from the side, and I don't know, I just feel like that was quite a nice difference. So Counter Bite, obviously I didn't love, but I didn't completely hate it. I could see he was just trying to give these characters something to do, but I did hate that they sort of, Finn in this film was just sort of, there was nothing about him that I sort of liked about him until the end. when he tried to like sacrifice himself, but I feel that was just a cop out. Like him just constantly trying to run away when I felt like he had so much more there as a character. Like I wanted to see him confronting. I feel like there was a lot of other characters in this film confronting their sort of past and the weight of their actions and what they had done. And I really wanted that to come out from him because he was the character that really resonated with me in the last film. I can also see why people were so peeved about Luke Skywalker, because people who are no doubt like probably 20-ish years older than us who saw it, or even older than that, who saw it as like a young boy growing up, and this was their role model. I feel like it probably would hurt quite a lot to see your role model completely crushed. But I don't argue. I think they did it in a good way, and I would like to have seen it explored a little bit more, I think. But I did enjoy this sort of like, the sort of seeing the man behind the myth, if you sort of will. Yeah, I do enjoy that. I don't know how much I liked some of Rey's interactions with him, but I think that whole thing was fine. I feel like Kylo Ren gets good time, like his time to shine in this one. Like we got more of him questioning his loyalties, what he really wants, and I really liked that he sort of, when he kills Snoke and just basically usurps his position, and I was like, I quite like that. He's not even. I liked that he chose there. He wasn't like toiling with his emotions anymore.
Yeah.
Like, and I maybe I would have just liked him to be like a villain all the way through that from there on, but being more like a sympathetic villain. Maybe him not turning back to the light. I don't know. I felt this film did a really good job at him making his choice.
Yeah. Because I thought, obviously, we'll get onto it next, but where they actually went with Kylo Ren after this, where I didn't think that's what this movie set up. So he makes his choice in this movie.
I feel like you can still have this sort of like him the way he is. I don't know how they would have pulled it off, to be honest, but I feel like they could have had him as he didn't have to come full circle. He could have like been a more sympathetic villain, which what else? Yeah, I enjoy the like battle on Crate. I think that's pretty cool. It seems like it's sort of reverse of Empire, where you start off with this sort of white planet, snow, salt, same thing.
Salt.
Yeah, thanks,
licks
Gareth.
the ground.
Yeah, I've got this at number 4. Because I don't think it's a terrible film, as a lot of people think, but I can see the reasons as to why people would think that way. This film, it's not a masterpiece. Sorry, guys. Empire. James, you've already said that Empire is the perfect film, and this, for me personally, just has just a few bits where it doesn't really work. It feels out of place. But I feel like there's not a moment in Empire where you have that. We went past Empire. We didn't even mention Yoda. Fuming. All right, we're past that.
I think because we talked about him so heavily in Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, we're past that. So yeah, Last Jedi, number 4.
Number 4.
So we haven't got anyone who completely hates that film in this group.
We got a good bunch.
Reese was here, put it at number 12.
Reese hasn't seen this one. My love for this movie is unmatched. I absolutely adore it. I think it's not the Star Wars film we wanted, but it is the Star Wars film we needed. Other than, like, Force Awakens plays into the tropes of the franchise. Last Jedi questions them, and it does subvert expectations, but it does it well, because if you are gonna, then pull it off. It's a film about learning from your failures, and that theme is so resonant throughout the movie. I like the Canto Bite stuff. It is a deviation from the main plot, but I think because we haven't really seen that side of the Star Wars galaxy before, so it served to just show us a new angle, and again, like Rogue One, that grey area.
Yeah, I like the opening shot introducing Canto Bite.
Yeah, this film, like you said, this is my favorite visual Star Wars movie as well. I think it just looks fucking phenomenal, especially on Crate when they're pulling up all the red, what was it, like crystals underneath the salt and
sand,
looks
dust,
stuff, or whatever it is.
beautiful. Yeah. I was never really interested in Luke Skywalker as a kid. I was always a Han Solo fan, but this for me made him such a much more interesting character, because he is, like you said, he is that, the man, not the myth. Everyone's expecting Luke Skywalker to turn up and just take down the First Order with one swing of his lightsaber.
In the gap between, I don't understand that in the gap between the original trilogy and this, that prime Luke that everyone talks about as being amazing could have still existed. Like, this is a much older Luke that we're now seeing, like, broken down and beaten.
Yeah, which I feel is much more interesting.
Yeah, time has passed between then, and obviously we've already seen from the Mandalorian that he was a force to be reckoned with. But like, I don't understand people's gripes for that.
No, I remember watching this movie midnight when it came out, and on the way out I was like, oh, everyone's gonna fucking love this. This is insane. This is so much better than what I could have ever hoped for Star Wars. And I'd look on Twitter and I was so disappointed by the reaction to it.
But sometimes divisive is good because it keeps it in the conversation.
And I really obviously, because people are still arguing about The Last Jedi. I think time will be very kind to this movie. I think people will look back on it and be like, it was doing something different. And go on.
But before we move on, we haven't mentioned Princess Leia getting blown into space.
Oh yeah, that was one of my bits to mention. That was terrible. It was bad.
I like it.
Yeah,
it's cool.
That was not a good bit.
It was bad.
I liked the bit that came with it, the Kylo Ren hesitation.
Yeah.
To do it, he had basically no fucking hesitation to kill his dad, but with his mum, you could see he was really not sure about it. But then, I remember, because did she die during this film, or was it after they filmed it? So I remember being confused about it beforehand, before I watched it, because I thought they were gonna kill her off in this one, so that they don't have to worry about it in the second one. And I remember that, in the third one. And I remember reading something, and they were like, "Oh, it's going to be really really." She's going to go out and it's going to be so respectful and so tasteful. So I thought that was happening in that movie, and she got blown out, and I was like, "Well, that wasn't fucking tasteful at all, was it?" I was like, "That was really shoehorned in." How easy was that? I was fuming.
You said it earlier about the moment between her and Luke at the end. It's one of my favorite moments in the whole saga. I think, obviously, because Carrie Fisher had passed by then, it's got so much more weight to it, and what she is saying and what Luke's saying means so much more, because we actually did lose Carrie Fisher, and it incredible, really. I love this movie. This is easily my number one. It has been since the first time I saw it, and I've seen this upwards of 25 times now. I think it's a masterpiece. I love this movie. And on the other end of the spectrum, let's go to The Rise of Skywalker. Jack.
I feel now I have a duty to this film, even though it's not very high on my list. It's certainly higher than what it's going to be on yours, for both of you. I think this is just a combination of Disney not knowing what the fuck they wanted to do with Star Wars. I feel like this would have been so much better if they, maybe delayed the whole trilogy by a year or two. They'd given it to one person, one director, to oversee all three. Preferably would have been Rian Johnson. Yeah. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gotten that absolute masterpiece. I just feel like one person should have been in charge. One person should have done it. And then it would have at least been, even if it was J.J. Abrams, maybe his plans for 3 would have, there would have been build up maybe across 2 and maybe 1 if he knew he was going to be doing all 3.
Yeah.
At least then you could argue that it's maybe not be the best idea, but at least it's consistent, and at least then you could argue that you could see things make sense. And what disappointed me the most about this film is that I was really excited after Last Jedi because it's the first time we would have seen Kylo Ren. Well, we would have seen anyone like in, like, you know, like the subordinate, essentially, like the apprentice, going on and being their own master, and like no one's in charge of them. He just completely off his leash. He can do whatever he wants. I thought that would have been amazing.
And they undo it in the first 2 minutes.
Yeah, because in the prequels, you've obviously got Palpatine, who's got Maul, then he's got Dooku and Grievous, and then he gets Anakin, so he has Darth Vader. So they're all like his lackeys, essentially. And I would have just loved to see Adam Driver just pick apart being his own lead, being the supreme leader, essentially. I think that would have been so good. Him just doing what he wants, no one telling him what to do, him making his own choices. And then they took that away, within 2 minutes. And I didn't hate the fact that the Emperor came back, like I'm sure you two did. I just wish that there was more lead up to it. I wish it was some more foreshadowing, some more allusions in the start to that it would make sense, and then I wouldn't hate it. But it's literally like in the crawl, bang, he's alive.
Well, yeah, because I'm pretty sure they came up with the idea of the Emperor coming back halfway through filming this movie.
Yeah, like I think I saw something that Daisy Ridley said that
didn't know until about a week before, apparently, or something.
Yeah, well, and like in films 1 and 2, her parents were no one, which is
the best idea.
Which would have been a much more interesting story, that she's not absolutely no right to be part of this saga. She's just found her way into it, and that would have been so much better. Then there were lots of things in this film that I did like. I liked the whole. It sounds like I didn't like much because I'm trying to think. I liked the whole Rey Kylo Ren fight on the old Death Star, like just not the fact that it was at the Death Star. I liked their whole fight and Rey just absolutely losing her head and basically killing him, and then you get the whole, my favorite scene in the movie, the whole when he speaks to like I don't know, a force, not even a force ghost, like the ghost of his father.
Have you seen when someone asks Harrison Ford, "Are you a force ghost?" He goes, "I don't know what the fuck a force ghost is."
Yeah.
He
I don't even know how to label
it.
it.
That's true.
Yeah. I don't even know how to label it, but when he has that conversation with his dad, and it's and it's like it's reflecting the conversation they had in the first one, but on the other side of the spectrum, where he decides, this isn't for me. I loved that bit, and then I loved having him back as like Ben Solo and seeing him, like, I would say in all his glory, but they could have done so much more to make the Knights of Ren a prominent threat.
Oh my god!
Imagine the build-up if they still stuck to this idea, but they showed the Knights of Ren in 1 and in 2, and they built them up to be these fucking strong, badass warriors.
Give them some character.
Give them some character, and then have him have like that struggle, but knowing how powerful they are and stuff, and just like they could have fleshed it out to have like a really cool like 5-minute, 10-minute like scene.
Yeah,
I feel like my main issue with this film is because the previous one is so good, it's just such a dip. And again, I like this film, but just I don't think it's not what I wanted. And
where is it on your list?
I've lost the bloody list now.
Dear God, Jack keeping track of any of his sort of rankings and
any
ratings
numbers.
Absolutely painful.
I'm not a numbers man. I'm not a numbers man. I'm all about emotion.
Emotion.
I've got it as number 8.
Right. Okay.
Fair enough.
Calvin.
Yeah, no surprise here. I've got it at number 11. I think this is the worst Star Wars film by far. It's the only one that really makes me get heated, I guess.
Yeah.
I think it's just the whole film is just one big retcon, and it isn't even done well. It's not reverse engineered in like clever ways where you can do retcons. It just
seems bitter.
It does. It does seem bitter and petty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just so I just found it so bad. It didn't at any point start getting its legs. yeah, I like Kylo Ren and everything, but seeing him fully embrace like the Skywalker blood in him at the end, and he gets to fight with like, the Skywalker family lightsaber, that was like too much for me. Like the Darth Vader thing is nice and subtle. He is still a monster, but he is the man under the mask sort of thing. With this, is like, no, he's completely, yeah, look at him, he's completely redeemed. Like he's back in his full glory. It's like, the Knights of Ren, pointless having them in there. I don't see the point. And like I said earlier about bringing Maul back, that was a good way of bringing a villain back. Palpatine in this, God, that was just, like you said, it might have been shoehorned in. It felt shoehorned in. I just thought it was terrible. I just have this fascination with bringing back, like, I'm okay with bringing back dead characters you might have seen dead, because in like fantasy things, sci-fi, if you don't see a body, they're most likely not dead. So like, but I just think it was done in such an awful way. I just found like Snoke being a clone took everything, all the menacing brood out of him in the last two films that we've possibly seen. Like it just amounted him to actually nothing. Ian McDermott's still great. But, and him having this just like immeasurable force on Exegol under the ice. I was just like, this is I know it's Star Wars, but a good world is one that believes in itself. So and it to have that is just it goes past dumb. And I didn't like the arena he was in with all like these Sith acolytes.
Yeah, what the fuck were they?
I do like the idea of Sith acolytes, like to show he had followers, but just to throw them in there like that, it was just terrible. Sorry, what was the plot in this again? The Sith
you have to stop a million Death Stars.
The Sith Wayfinders. The Sith Wayfinders are fine. I like those as an idea, but they're so rooted in Star Wars lore that you can't chuck them into one of the big mainstream films and expect most people to know what they are. So they get the Sith Wayfinder, and where do they need to go?
Exegol. They need to go to Exegol because that's where.
Oh, so basically
is with all those ships.
Yeah, which is a stupid plan, but
the final order.
Yeah, you thought bringing just one Death Star back for Force Awakens was bad, but in this, every Star Destroyer is just a Death Star.
General Hux in this just gets completely like the way his character's going. I didn't massively like Domhnall Gleeson's portrayal of him anyway. I thought he was way too over the top. Like
I liked it.
I don't know. I like the sort of like. The sort of Tarkins and the Krennics. I feel like those characters feel so much more real to me than someone who's constantly like looking like he's like trying to hold a poo in. It's how he looks. Like he's really struggling. Like it's gonna come out. Yeah.
They also do his like betrayal thing so much better in Rebels. Because they basically do the same thing but with different characters, don't they?
Oh yeah. Like that sort of back and forth, trying to blur the lines between rebellion and Empire or First Order or whatever. God, there are some bits of this film which I think have like decent moments. Then the whole like, oh my God, just shoehorning things in like a forced dyad. When has that ever been mentioned before? How can Palpatine just randomly suck your life force out of you and then become Palpatine again? I didn't mind his big lightning thing up in the air. I thought that was fine. But as we've seen earlier on in the film, Rey accidentally does it and then it blows up the ship. Palpatine does a fucking massive one and it just disables everyone's engines.
Just an EMP.
Yeah, just big EMP. Can he control that? He just shout it like EMP, like he's in an anime or something.
It's a finishing move.
Yeah, I just thought this film, it just felt like a massive retcon. It didn't feel like, this whole trilogy didn't feel like they had like a massive idea, but at least the other two films were executed well enough.
Yeah,
this one just went completely. I think they just sat in the writers' room, just listening to J.J. Abrams talk. And he must just be a great salesman. Like they must have just sold this idea, and they were like, "Yeah, okay, that'll do." I do think Disney just bought this. And Jack was saying that maybe this trilogy would have benefited from having one director. I'm not so sure it would have, because the original
not
trilogy
even one
is
director, just a plan.
Well, the original trilogy is 3 different directors, but all overseen by one man with a vision.
Yeah.
And that's what you need. All Disney did here was buy the rights to something and then realize, oh, we want to buy it to make money.
But we don't know what we're going to do with it.
To make money, we have to plan. We have to make all these films. I do think like they've learned a lot from this trilogy, though. I do think they're on the right. I do think they're on the right path now. So but it's a shame that this trilogy had to suffer so much, and especially the last film.
Yeah.
Sort of get to that point. I do think Rey should have just been a no one, Kirk being like a Palpatine. I don't know what's trying to set standard they're trying to set for, like, you know, young girls all across the world who really looked up to Rey, for them to be like, you know, you don't have to be somebody to be somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now, actually, you do need this like royal bloodline. Yeah.
Because the whole thing was Kylo comes from this bloodline, and he feels so entitled.
Yeah, how it's
to have this power. Yeah. Rey was on the other end of that. She was a no one who has just stumbled into this story.
And obviously Finn gets, like, they try to like bring back that he might have the Force.
I'm Force sensitive. Why?
Why would you yell that? Why would you yell that?
Because you're about to die.
I'm
sensitive.
I was all for like the idea of Finn, an ex-stormtrooper, leading this, like, these stormtroopers, like these ex-stormtroopers against other stormtroopers, like, you know, it still are stormtroopers. But I just think it was executed so poorly. I feel like maybe they, even in the Force Awakens, if they introduced, because you see like his friend dying, if they introduce like a couple of more of his friends, just quick little scene, maybe to show that he had some relationships with the First Order. And then possibly later on, like, I wanted to see, I quite like the idea of just like these deserters. Yeah, I feel like that could be a whole film on its own if you're going to do it well.
I think for Finn's arc, how much more interesting would it have been if is her name Jana, the other stormtrooper he meets? If their story of why they deserted the First Order and why they left was because of they heard what Finn did. And how much more rewarding would that be for his arc? Other than we all just felt the Force and quit. I was like, so poorly written.
I felt like the lightsaber duels on this were a bit bland as well. I didn't mind the one on the Death Star, but it wasn't like the one in the throne room.
No,
that one in the Last Jedi was so dynamic because they were up against foes who weren't traditionally trained.
And just visually very appealing.
Yeah, they had like different weapons, which is always cool to work with. I just felt that this one was quite bland. Even the last one, when Kylo Ren kills all of his friends, whoever they are, the Knights of Ren, the pointless men who have the worst weapons ever. They're just bludgeoning tools. They can't even bludgeon a man who's not in armor. Stupid. So this is number 11 for me. I think it's the worst Star Wars film.
Yeah, I've never hated a movie more in my life. I think this is it's an insult to everyone who watched it, to the franchise itself. From the very first sentence of the opening crawl, this was the most eye-rolling experience I've ever had in my life. I audibly said, fuck off, in the cinema when it was revealed that she was a Palpatine. I thought so lazy and so bitter, and it undid everything that the last movie had so successfully set up and achieved. And I hated it, and there was no groundwork in this movie or the last two to set up Palpatine returning. And it was so lazy. It was like, what do we do for the last movie? Because we need to wrap everything up. Let's put Palpatine back in it. Everyone will go with that. No, we won't. Shit. You finally set up Kylo Ren as the leader of this force, and he's the supreme leader, and you finally got rid of Snoke. You don't need him because Snoke was a means to an end for Kylo Ren. And then you just replace him with the Emperor. But also whilst doing that, making Snoke so much less appealing as a character by just making him a clone. It's really stupid. Yeah, so it undoes everything from the last movie. It feels separate from anything that came before. It really, when I think of Star Wars, I try not to think of this because it just makes me angry.
There's only 10 movies.
Yeah, it ended with Last Jedi, and that's fine. Maybe the biggest offense this movie commits is it's so void of consequence. Nothing that you kill Chewbacca only to bring him back a minute later.
Yeah.
Which one of the biggest characters in the franchise. Everyone loves Chewbacca. You never kill the dog. Oh my God, they killed the dog. No, they didn't. This movie
there was another ship we saw for a brief second. And you've got to remember that.
But how much would that mean for Rey's character to hold this power back because she has just accidentally killed one of her friends?
Yeah, and that knife. What was that knife about?
Oh my God, the light from the Goonies.
Yeah.
It lined up perfect. Oh my God.
Awful.
And then obviously another death sort of was C-3PO, where they were going to erase his memory. And they make it very clear we can't get his memory back. So this is the end for C-3PO. And I was like, this is actually quite emotional. This is going to work. Nope. Just gets
he's got a
put
USB.
back in. So stupid. You don't need that. This is the last movie, or so you're saying, in this franchise. You can kill a couple of characters off and have weight to it. Everything else might not have worked, but we might have got some nice moments about Chewbacca and C-3PO, but nope. Conceptually, I think this might have worked. If it feels like a fan film, really, and it feels like they were just getting ideas from Reddit. This wasn't the Star Wars movie we needed. This was the Star Wars movie that people wanted and were, clamoring for.
I don't know. I feel like most fan theories are actually above what we got here.
Oh yeah, probably. Yeah. I hate this movie, and I don't.
So I'm sensing this is like mid. I'm sensing this is like a mid-table for you.
Number 5,
6, 7.
This is number 11.
Yeah.
I hate this movie so much. I never want to watch it again. So, right. And our official ranking of the 11 Star Wars films is as follows. Coming in at number 11, we have Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. At number 10, Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. In number 9, we have Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. At number 8, Solo, A Star Wars Story. At number 7, Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. At number 6, Episode 7, The Force Awakens. At number 5, Episode 4, A New Hope. At 4, Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. At number 3, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. At number 2, Episode 8, The Last Jedi. And at number 1, Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back.
James,
the king stands strong.
You obviously can't do maths.
I've got it all here, man.
You've obviously you're gonna have to send me your workings after this.
It's because Calvin had The Last Jedi at 4.
Number 4. Yeah, I think
it brought it down.
No, I don't know. I feel like
that seems like a
I feel
reasonable
like
list.
Yeah, I feel like we got quite an objective as we could sort of thing there.
Yeah. I feel like it's very. I feel like it's just the best it's going to be.
What are you angry about? You're angry about the Rise of Skywalker.
It's angry that The Last Jedi is number 1.
Yeah,
I'm not angry.
If any movie was gonna get number 1 over it, I'm okay with it being Empire.
Yeah, at least
anything else I would have kicked off.
if
never would have come back on this damn podcast.
Solo
number 2, Last Jedi. Yeah, number 2, Last Jedi. Number 1, Attack of the Clones. I just slam my laptop right now. Fuck this.
And that's the show, guys. Thanks as always for watching. Head to our Twitter and follow us at Keepin It Real UK. From there, you can find links to our Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Please like, rate, and subscribe where you can. We'll see you again on Monday when we're doing a rewind review of Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead before his latest film, Army of the Dead, lands on Netflix later that week. Until then, please share this around if you enjoy. And as always, keep it real.